Hello everybody and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as J.R.R, and you are watching the second installment of our new historical battle series that deals with the War of the Elves of Sauron and some other cool stuff as well, which you will see later. And we left off last time with the fall of the elven city of Ostinedil and subsequently the fall of the area known as Eregion on the borders of the Misty Mountains. And that battle took place, the one that I just mentioned, in 1697. And it entailed the fall of the House of the Myrdain, who are great elven craftsmen, and the death of Celebrimbor, one of the sons of Feanor, and the greatest craftsman of his age. Now, what happened to Celeborn, just a bit of a recap, was that he refused to reveal the whereabouts of the three rings, those being Narya, Vilya, and Nenya. Narya and Vilya had been sent to Gil-Galad and Lindon, whereas Nenya has, of course, been given to Galadriel. And Celeborn revealed that one of the dwarf rings had been given to Durin, or one of the Durins of Khazad-dûm at this point. But he wouldn't give up, as I said, the locations of the elven rings. So Sauron, in his fury, has him put to death, and he mounts his body on a pole in front of his army, and he uses it as a standard, which is pretty brutal. It's a bad way to go. But Elrond's forces attempt to stop Sauron, and they are nearly overwhelmed. They come across the sack of the city, and they are pushed back into the area around what would later be Imladris. It hasn't been founded yet. Elrond founds it actually around this time. Actually, when he's pushed back into the area around Imladris, he then founds the refuge. And his forces were saved from complete destruction by the timely arrival of some dwarves from Khazad-dûm, these being the Longbeards, who had great friendship with the Elves of Eregion, though where they were at the fall of the city, I don't know, but still. He attacks the rear of Sauron's army so that he can't pursue Elrond and his forces to the death into Rivendell. So it gives them an opportunity to escape. Afterwards, the dwarves flee into Khazad-dûm and they shut the doors behind them. And Sauron, of course, can't get in there, and he is pretty pissed off about this. So afterwards, he tells his followers, the orcs, to harass and do harm to the dwarves wherever they can find them. Now, Sauron, being a clever bastard, guesses the location of the three rings, and he intends to attack Lindon, where Gil-Galad, as I said, is holding two of the rings, Narya and Vilya. He overruns Eriador in 1699, so 2 years after the fall of Ostinedil, destroying the land and slaying elves and men as he went. Many different tribes of men would have inhabited this area. They wouldn't have just been Numenoreans. It would have been either Edain that never ended up in Numenor and mingling with the people of Numenor, or just, you know, other kind of strains of lesser men. So Sauron marshals his forces for an attack on Lindon, and he meets Gil-Galad's host at the River Lune on the borders of Lindon. And Sauron's army is being confronted by Gil-Galad, the High-King of the Noldor, and the Sindar that are under his command, and some of the men of Numenor. Now, they are waiting for reinforcements in the form of a large naval army that's being sent by Tar-Minastir, who is the king of Numenor. But given that, according to what I read, it sounds like the Numenoreans at this point are fairly few in number in comparison to the Elves of Lindon, I have included two wings of the Elves of Lindon. We'll take a quick look over here and we'll look at our buddies in the forest. Just a quick one, though. We'll get into their army composition and stuff a little later. But you can see our friends here that are supporting us on our, I guess that'd be the left wing. Yeah, it would. And they are entirely composed of elves. And that's because the greater part of the Numenorean forces that were engaged, or that were used in this battle, come later in the form of a naval attack, which obviously I can't show you in Medieval 2 because of engine limitations, unfortunately. If they ever make a passable Lord of the Rings mod for Rome 2, I'd be happy to redo all of these battles in a much more amazing kind of grand scale that includes more details, but unfortunately I can't. But anyway, so Sauron's forces, well, you will see, but as you probably guessed, they are defeated because this is not where Gil-Galad dies. If you've seen the rest of the historical battle series, he dies much later in the War of the Last Alliance. But Sauron's forces were defeated by the combined forces of the Elves and the men of Numenor, and the remainder of his army retreated southward. At the Sarn Ford on Brandywine, Sauron's forces were further reduced in a bloody, bloody battle. probably with Elves of Lindon and vengeful forces out of Rivendell, as well as the pursuing Numenoreans. And at Thaurbad, Sauron was joined by some reinforcements, but at the same time, additional forces from Numenor came ashore at Llandair, at the mouth of the Grey Flood, or the Gwathlo. And some of these should be familiar to you because we've done battles to them before, but the Gwathlo is, I believe it's quite close to Dunland. Or basically in the middle of Dunland. Anyway, so at the, this bit will be followed up with the Battle of the Gwathlo, which I think I've shown you before, but maybe we'll do it again. At which point Sauron's forces were completely defeated. At the same time, his forces guarding Rivendell were crushed by Gil-Galad and Elrond. Eriador was freed by the enemy forces. Unfortunately, the place was in absolute, utter ruin because of this horrible conflict that raged across it for several years. And yeah, that's all of the information you guys are going to need for now. This is going to be the end of the saga that deals with the War of the Elves and Sauron. Maybe I won't redo the Battle of Gwathlo. I will leave that as it is, because I think it's okay. I think the battle itself explains everything, and you know, it's good. So here we are. Let's enjoy the battle here. It's going to be a little choppy. I think this is like another 10,000 person battle, probably over that. Let's take a quick look at our enemy's army here. They've got probably 2 units of Minas Morgul spearmen in there. They've got some dismounted black Numenoreans. Obviously, these would not be people from Minas Morgul, since I don't think the city exists at this point. Actually, no, I'm sure it doesn't exist at this point. And then he's got some black Numenoreans who would not even be present on this battle, but they help make the battle challenging. Some heavy cav. We'll just call them evil men. Ignore the fact that they are black Numenoreans. This is one of his smaller, more elite forces. It's mostly composed of black Numenoreans and trolls. Over here we've got some Uruks, some Uruk bodyguard who have 2 hit points in our nightmare. Some Guldur Slayers who are very potent, heavy axemen. And more Guldur Slayers, Uruks, and Uruk bodyguard. And it looks like they're going to be most of their trolls and everything is going to be converging onto our army here, which is a pretty badass elven army. We've got 3 or 4 units of nobles of Mitland, and we've got a couple. I think we've got 2-3 units of Noldor Guardians who are very, very powerful pikemen. We've got some Sword Quendi, and behind them we've got some Elder Rinway archers, and then we've got a number of units of Elder Rinway cav. I believe we have about 4 who are very powerful. And we've got 4 units of Elder Rinway swordsmen who are hiding in the forest. You can see them here. Over on this side, we've got some of our reinforcements from our friends here. We've got a couple units of Elder Rinway cavalry. The army here is much less powerful than our army, I would say. Oops. It's a lot lighter. He's got a lot more light troops, less heavy troops. Got some Bow Quendi, some Lindon long spears who are upgraded, and a lot of Sword Quendi. And I think he might have a couple units of Noldor Guardians who are very powerful. But on the whole, his army is much more numerous than ours. Oh yeah, maybe he's got a couple units of Elder Rinway swordsmen as well. But as you can see, we're trying to make a united front here. I'm moving my forces forward, but staying quite close to my allies so that I can support him if I need to. And this, take a look over here. You've just seen an obscene amount of trolls, like 4 units of Olokai who are just monstrous, as you've seen in some of our other battles. I believe these units here also have, 1, 2, 3, 4 units of Olokai. It's kind of crazy. And I think some of them are Olokai and some of them are mountain trolls. It's a bit of a mix here. We've got some more Minas Morgul Guardians, some Guldur Slayers, you know, all the good kind of cream of the Mordor infantry crop. And they're trying to envelop us because they have 3 armies to our 2. This guy's going to come around here and he's going to attack our friend head on. I think we're going to end up converging in the forest here. Looks like, yeah, I think their replay might be a little corrupted, but that's okay because this is not happening the last time. Hopefully we still win. This looks like our Noldor Guardians have gotten into a fight with these mountain trolls here. Our Elder Rinway archers are getting into position to start taking some pot shots at the Mordor army, and not too much is happening with our Elder Rinway lancers. In the non-corrupted version, I was being much more aggressive with these guys, and I don't think I'd let them get charged by a unit of black Numenoreans. But it looks like that's what's going to happen. Hopefully we still win this battle. It's going to be tough though. It's going to be pretty tough. 1% of our allies have been killed so far, probably thanks to these obnoxious trolls. It looks like our allies have rushed their Elder and Lancers and some of their Mithlon nobles into the fray, so we're going to be... Yeah, it's going to be a big scrum right in the middle, so this is going to be a lot of fun. Unfortunately, that's going to leave us open to an envelopment on this side, unless my computer ally is clever with his forces here. It doesn't look like it. It looks like there's a huge battle raging under these trees right now. Cavalry and elves and all kinds of people just engaged on all fronts. But it looks like we might be okay. What do we got here? Captain Eregion. I don't know whose infantry that is at this point. I think that might be ours, though. Looks like ours. Oh, it's getting a little choppy, but I'm sure you guys, if you follow the series regularly, I'm sure you're used to that by now. We've got some pretty brutal combat going on over here. These guys are holding their own very well against these Alakai, and they're actually managing to kill these trolls. Looks like he's charged some of his cavalry in here, and they're not going to do very well against those powerful spears. Let's see how our cavalry is doing. Apparently they're not doing anything. Yeah, they're going toe-to-toe with these Eldar Runeway Lancers, but they are outnumbered as hell, and they're just not going to do anything. Unfortunately, these guys might be able to wipe them out. Yeah, unfortunately, our cavalry is just standing around. I assure you I was being much more aggressive with them in the actual battle. Firing up some hammer and anvil charges and all that good stuff. It looks like our archers here are about to get attacked in close combat by these, from the rear, no less, by these black Numenoreans. Or evil men, as we've decided to call them. You can see it's just terrible, terrible carnage here all along this front line that extends into the forest. Yeah, it's pretty choppy here. What if we do this? What if that will fix anything? Nope, that's absolutely nothing. I can just, let's just pause it for a second to enjoy some of this carnage here. We can just hear the sounds of battle and see the Elven forces are pressed very hard, but victory is a distinct possibility for them nonetheless. Although over here the balance of forces is a little more evenly matched. It looks like some of these Guldur Slayers are going to charge into the sides of these other enemy swordsmen, but these guys hold their own very well against orcs of any denomination. So there's 2 units of these guys pouring in here, though, so they might be a little hard-pressed to hold their ground, but we're going to see what happens. Alright, let's turn this around. Get a look of things from the side of the Mordor forces. Looks like their cavalry's been pretty bloodied up. Doesn't look like ours has fared a whole lot better, though. Can't really get a good glimpse of what's going on. Just absolutely chaotic. We've got some mountain trolls here that are mixed in amongst the Elven infantry, who are no doubt pushing our troops back. Got some Numenorean cav here. Yeah, looks like this unit of Lancers here has been almost completely wiped out, although the infantry is holding the line quite nicely. And it looks like, yeah, we've still got some reserves here that are being redeployed to the other wing to stem the tide of these of this large mass of Mordor infantry. It's looking good, though. It's looking fairly good for the Elven forces. I mean, we've managed to, except on this side here, we're starting to get pushed pretty hard, but it looks like our cavalry has finally managed to do something useful. They are still... A unit of our cavalry is still fighting these black Numenoreans here, but they seem to be holding their own fairly well, though victory is apparently a distinct possibility as the Mordor player rushes some mounted black Numenoreans into the fray. And it looks like a couple units of their cavalry have, as well as a unit of black Numenoreans on foot, have managed to skirt around our line here, and they're beginning to attack our archers. We're preventing them from attacking our foes at range, which is a bit of a problem for us. Let's see what's going on over here. Looks like some of our cavalry has got stuck in against some Uruks and possibly an Uruk bodyguard. No, some Guldur Slayers, so they're going to do really well for themselves, surprisingly. Balance of power here is shifting in favor of the Elves. We've killed about a quarter of the Mordor forces, which is significant, very significant. I think they've got about 7,000 troops to our 3,000 and change. Just fierce combat raging under these trees right here. It's kind of fantastic. I wish it wasn't quite so choppy, but yeah, there's not really a whole lot that can be done about that, unfortunately. But our forces here are very, very thick along these lines, so it looks like we are holding our ground very nicely, although we are starting to get enveloped on this side. There's some Mordor forces back here that are preventing most of our troops from coming to the succor of these Lindon spearmen right here. Although it looks like this unit is free, but doesn't look like the AI is doing anything with it right now. Over here, though, victory is apparently certain for the Mordor forces here. They're doing very well against this Quendi, despite the fact that they were, just a moment ago, they were shaken. So they might just be... Oh yeah, it looks like these Elder Ringway swordsmen here are beginning to fall apart here. 2 units of those guys into their flank was a little much for them, I think. So things could get pretty ugly here if they manage to penetrate behind our lines and start wiping out our reserves. Though we do have a fairly substantial amount of soldiers still who are able to fight that haven't yet been engaged there. Like those Bokran
Good tidings.
Looks like
the enemy general lies
oh,
dead.
Excellent. Looks like we've managed to bring down the enemy general, which is fantastic. These Olokai here, despite being very formidable, are struggling against these Noldor spearmen. They're Noldor guardians, that's who they are. They're very powerful. Looks like we've got some Boquendi here that have been chased all over the field, so they're quite spread out. What do we got over here? Looks like we've got a unit of Boquendi coming in here to reinforce our troops on this side. A battered unit of Nobles of Mithlond has emerged from the forest in order to support our troops over here. It looks like our line is beginning to thin out here. These Lindon long spears cannot hold back this tide all on their own. Although in the center, I think things are probably going a little better for us. Our Nobles of Mithlond are holding their ground. They are being pushed back though by
the enemy general lies dead.
Oh wow, the other enemy general has gone down. So it looks like maybe some of these troops might start routing, which would be fantastic for us. But I doubt it. They're all fairly elite. They're probably going to stick around. But wherever these Noldor spearmen are, the enemy is being pushed back quite decisively. Let's see what's happened over here. It looks like a unit of our lancers here has been completely wiped out. A large unit of Mordor infantry here is still being held up by something. Most of those black Numenoreans, though, perished in the attempt to bring down our cavalry, who are very, very powerful. Got another couple units of them over here. It looks like they've managed to break part of the Mordor line. Looks like, yep, large numbers of Mordor infantry are routing over here in our army center. So it looks like we're going to be able to do a little flanking maneuver of our own. A large number of our cavalry here. It looks like they've been surrounded, and they're continuing to be surrounded by spearmen and all kinds of nasty anti-cavalry units. But they're very powerful, and they will probably deal some serious casualties to the Mordor forces, as well as holding up a large portion of their army. So they're doing their job. They're doing all right. Over here on our line, our light troops are struggling against just under the weight of all of these powerful
the enemy are badly
Mordor
bloodied.
units.
They have lost half their men.
The enemy has lost half their men. We are down to about 2/3 of our original forces, so we're doing much better. It looks like these Elder Ringway swordsmen here are managing to ruin these Uruks in our enemy center, and it looks like our units on our allies' extremity they're bunched up. It's very thick on both sides. It looks like it's pretty balanced for the time being, and we are being slowly outflanked. Looks like most of our Quendi units here have been annihilated, although the Orcs took tremendous casualties in the process, and that one unit of Elder Ringway swordsmen has been completely destroyed. Over here we've got another unit of cavalry.
The enemy are badly bloodied.
Who are engaging these Guldur slayers. It looks like they're going to start routing pretty soon. These Olokai here are chasing around our poor Boquendi. There's only a couple of them, though. Looks like the spearmen did their job well, but unfortunately they are occupied, so those Olokai are free to wreak some serious havoc into to the ranks of our allies' archers. It looks like we've moved some of our Elder Ringway archers over here to support this line. I'm not entirely sure who they're firing at. Probably some of the routing troops or some of these. Oh yeah, they're taking shots at this cavalry over here. I'm glad to see that. Oh wow, that's a huge body of routed troops. I bet you they come back. But I'm glad to see that the frame rate has improved. Looks like, yeah, our cavalry here are still punishing our enemies. These guys are engaged with a little fight here with some black Numenoreans, and it looks like pretty even fight going on here. Although the black Numenoreans seem to be coming out on top because our ally isn't doing anything. Yeah, they're being struck down from behind. So that's kind of annoying. I wish replays worked better in this. Large numbers of these Mordor troops are fleeing. I bet you these guys at some point they will turn around and they will come back. But let's just survey the carnage here. These Uruk are still managing to hold out here. Looks like they've had some success against these Noldor guardians who have managed to get themselves isolated.
Our general lies slain upon the battlefield.
Oh no, our general has died. I can assure you that that did not happen in the actual battle. We're going to assume that that is one of Gil-Galad's underlings, not the High King himself. Looks like these black Numenoreans here have picked a fight with these spearmen. The spearmen are at a disadvantage being spearmen against a sword unit, but it looks like the black Numenoreans are nonetheless going to lose that fight. Just brutal, brutal slaughter here. Our Mithlond noble companies have just taken terrible, terrible casualties. It looks like they've managed to get strung out a little bit.
We've lost half of our men!
Yeah, it looks like Elven forces have taken heavy casualties. We've lost almost half of our soldiers, although the Mordor forces have lost 80% of theirs, so the battle is definitely in our favor. Yeah, even these Uruk bodyguards who have amazing morale are starting to rout. Looks like we might see another breakthrough here as more Mordor infantry units start to rout. Yeah, these Minas Morgul Guardians are not happy about the way this battle is going. Looks like they are managing to get themselves surrounded. Looks like, yeah, most of the flanking forces here on our allies' extremity, that'd be their rightmost wing, have been repulsed at great cost, as you can see. It looks like they're being run down by my allies' remaining cavalry companies. Looks like these Sword Quendi here, fresh from their battle against the Guldur Slayer companies that the Mordor player threw in there, are going to pursue the fleeing enemy forces. So it looks like the power of Sauron has been broken here. Mostly it's the remaining trolls, of which there are very few, and these black Numenorean companies that are still hanging around, causing some serious havoc. Doesn't look... Looks like there's a unit of Uruks in here that has managed to reform, so maybe the rest of these guys will as well. Although they are all shaken. Definitely not happy with the loss of their general. Yeah, it doesn't look like those other companies that I thought would come back have come back, although maybe they have and they've just been beaten back again. Yeah, it looks like some of the Mordor troops are starting to turn around, but they are being pursued very closely and haughtily by elven infantry and cavalry. Got a unit of Lindon longspears here going after these infernal cavalry units. Archers are still opening fire on these black Numenoreans, causing some pretty bad casualties to them, although it looks like we are going to get some friendly fire. The archers, or the AI is pretty stupid with their archers. Maybe they've, yeah, perhaps they've redirected their fire here onto these black Numenoreans. So it looks like we've got another company of spearmen coming up here who are chasing the Mordor infantry. Our units are all very, very badly bloodied, but they are mostly intact. I don't think the Elven, aside from maybe that unit of swordsmen and a couple other companies, I don't think they've had any complete and total losses amongst their units, which is very impressive. So these black Numenoreans here are surrounding on all sides. Got Sword Quendi and Lindon longspears and some Mithlond nobles who are pounding them from all sides. Looks like our cavalry companies have taken some pretty tremendous losses. They were in the thick of the fighting for a very long time, holding up large portions of the Mordor infantry, so they've definitely done their job well, and they have paid for it with the lives of many of their comrades, unfortunately. Our archers strangely haven't run out of ammunition yet, and they're still firing. It doesn't look like they've taken
behold how our cowardly foe runs.
Of casualties amongst the archers.
It's time to press the attack.
Yeah, for the most part, it is down to Mordor's remaining Numenorean companies. For the most part, their orcs have been scattered, and they've been driven over the hills into rout, and they are going to be run down by the Numenorean reinforcements in the future. As after this battle and the defeat that he suffers at Tharbad, Sauron only has his bodyguard to flee with him, and I believe eventually he is pursued so closely by the vengeful forces of the Elves and the men of Numenor that he is actually the only person to make it back to Mordor, his entire force dedicated to the conquering of Eregion and Eriador. So the fall of Ostinethil has been avenged, thankfully. Unfortunately, it has cost the lives of about 50% of our allied soldiers. But nonetheless,
how our cowardly foe
the Mordor forces have been driven back for the time being. So that is it for the battle. I hope you guys enjoyed. Not too sure what will be coming up next. I've got a lot of schoolwork that has to be taken care of. That's coming up in the next week. It's midterm time chez moi. So I will try and get something up, but it might be a few days before I have time to do it. So you guys have been tremendously patient with me so far. I haven't had anyone, banging down the door of my inbox with like angry emails telling me, "You need to release something now." So thank you guys for your understanding and for your patience, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the battle.